realize all over the world where a dark man was being oppressed, he was being oppressed by the white man. Where the dark man was being exploited, he was being exploited by the white man. So they got together under this basis, that they had a common enemy. And when you and I here in Detroit and in Michigan and in America, who have been awakened today, look around us, we too realize here in America, we all have a common enemy. Whether he's in Georgia or Michigan, whether he's in California or New York, he's the same man. Blue eyes and blonde hair and pale skin. Same man. Don't let the enemy know that you got a disagreement. Instead of us airing our differences in public, we have to realize we're all the same family. And when you have a family squabble, you don't get out on the sidewalk. If you do, everybody calls you uncouth, unrefined, uncivilized, savage. If you don't make it at home, you settle it at home. You get in the closet, argue it out behind closed doors. And then when you come out on the street, you pose a common front, a united front. And this is what we need to do in the community and in the city and in the state. We need to stop airing our differences in front of the white man. Put the white man out of our meeting, number one, and then sit down and talk shop with each other. That's all you got to do. These Negroes aren't asking for no nation. They're trying to crawl back on the plantation. A revolution is bloody. Revolution is hostile. Revolution knows no compromise. Revolution overturns and destroys everything that gets in its way. And you sitting around here like a knot on the wall saying, I'm going to love these folks no matter how much they hate me. No, you need a revolution.
In the last 500 years, black people in this area of the world, we can say that there's no such thing as black culture. What there is what the system of racism, white supremacy programs black people to do. You see, in other words, if the system of racism, white supremacy says, you are not going to be scientists. You are not going to be highly functioning doctors and lawyers and teachers. You are not going to have stable family life. You are not going to respect sex. Now, your role is to entertain me so you can jump up and down and sing. You can dance, and yes, you're good at sports. You can do that in some venues. That's what I'm going to allow you to do. I'm not going to allow you to have stable communities, because if you have a Tulsa, Oklahoma, I'm going to burn that down. If you think you're going to stabilize a so-called middle-class community and you're going to have a home that's mortgaged, I'm going to see that those mortgages are foreclosed so that you can be into family dissolution, place of living dissolved. So what we can say is that we have an imposed culture under the power dynamics of racism, white supremacy. See, I can see right now in my mind the picture of Beyonce with her legs wide open at the Super Bowl for last year. It was so appalling to me, I can't get it out of my mind in terms of what has been done to us. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we would be wiser. No, we are trying to get ourselves to the point where we can establish what we would then call black culture, where we will no longer be victims of a system of racism, white supremacy. So once the system of racism, white supremacy has been replaced with a system of justice, that's when we will start talking about our culture. That's when we will begin talking about who we really are as black people.
Neely Fuller, who wrote the textbook for victims of racism a number of years ago, in the mid-70s, he used to say in the system, because he was the first person to talk about racism as a system, and he said that as the system of racism, white supremacy moves on, the system is going to have black men wearing dresses. Now, to hear that in the 70s, people said, oh, this is way out. And here we are. Do you see, there's some black pediatricians who are saying we are developing epidemic levels of the effeminization of young black males. Well, I say the pants sagging down is just a subconscious invitation for homosexuality. You see, it's revealing the buttocks. See, so the pants are getting lower and lower and lower. The next step is to step out of the pants altogether. And so you step out of the pants, you're going to put on a dress. The effeminization is an essential ingredient of white genetic survival, and the only thing that can prevent it is black people becoming conscious or becoming determined that this is not going to happen to them, because if the black men are destroyed, then the black people are gone, and we have a state of genocide.
See, the white supremacists, they confuse the minds of people all over the world, so that everybody's trying to figure out, well, if I'm a light-skinned black person, what color am I? But I am still black. If who says that I'm black? If the white supremacists say that you're black, that's who. Nobody else. Nobody else can make that determination. They decide. They say that these are the brown people. You have an expression now that's been going on for some time. Black people and brown people. Most black people are brown. See how they do the confusion? But it's one thing that's not confused. And you can look at any chart of the races, any census of the so-called races and whatnot. White is the only one that's not confused. Stop and think about it. White is the only one that's not confused. When you say that, one size fits all. That's all you have to be. Not white semi-Mexican, white Indian, white, Calcuttian or whatnot. No, just white. Everybody understands what that means. Everybody understands what white means. But when you start talking about part Japanese, part Jewish or something like that, nobody knows what that means. The suspects or the white supremacists themselves, they didn't consider it important enough to broadcast, or maybe they didn't want it broadcast, so it wasn't. Things happen with non-white people based on what the white supremacists decide. We are under their jurisdiction. That's what white supremacy means. They do what they please. And so if they decide to broadcast something, it will be broadcast. If they decide that it won't be broadcast, it won't be broadcast. And if anybody gets mad about it, if somebody wants it broadcast and it's not, the white supremacist says, well, you can get mad, but you're still my prisoners of war. And I determine what you do and what you don't do. And that's the end of that story. Because after all, it's one bottom line here. You are not big enough, bad enough, or smart enough to whip me and make me do anything. And I can make you do anything that I want done including die, and nobody will do anything about that. And so that's the bottom line on that.
Mm-hmm.
They made that decision. Well, it depends on the circumstances and whatnot. Sometimes it's just a simple case of a black person trying to show themselves as being even-handed, you might say, decent, etc., etc. And sometimes it's out of fear. Self-preservation. They're letting that white person know, I'm not with him. Because if I'm with him, it ain't no benefit in that. If I'm with you, it is. Very simple. Because everything comes from you. It don't come from him. He's just running his mouth. If I'm going to get paid, I'm going to get paid by you.
Okay. Could you
Sure. You follow the logic in every situation. So you're not arguing with the person, you're arguing with the logic. And keep that in mind. It's not a personality contest. Because you're discussing the subject. The subject is the thing you concentrate on, not the personalities. You don't get caught up in the personalities. So if the black person says something in the so-called defense of the white person, you just keep asking the logical questions. Problems are solved by asking questions and coming up with correct answers. The black person says, well, I agree with the white person, Say, okay, well, why do you agree with what he's saying or she is saying? I agree because of, okay, because of what, and have them say why they agree. And then you look at what they're agreeing to and see if it's logical. If it's logical, you go with it, because you always go with the logic. And if it's not, you raise questions about that. You say, that appears not to be logical. And I'll tell you why. And then you tell them why. And then you move on, because what you're searching for is the truth. I don't care who's doing the talking. Truth plus justice plus correctness equals peace. That's the equation. First thing you seek is the truth. Don't compromise on that. So that's the only way you can produce a product called justice. Got to start with what is first. You don't want to make things up. Say things that are not true. That's what the racists do.
There was two kinds of slaves. There was the house Negro and the field Negro. The house Negro, they lived in the house with master. They dressed pretty good. They ate good because they ate his food, what he left. They lived in the attic or the basement, but still they lived near their master. And they loved their master more than the master loved himself. They would give their life to save their master's house quicker than the master would. The house Negro, if the master said, we got a good house here, the house Negro said, yeah, we got a good house here. Whenever the master said we, he said we. That's how you can tell a house Negro. If the master's house caught on fire, the house Negro would fight harder to put the blaze out than the master would. If the master got sick, the house Negro would say, what's the matter, boss? We sick. We sick. He identified himself with his master more than his master identified with himself. And if you came to the house Negro and said, let's run away, let's escape, let's separate, that house Negro would look at you and say, man, you crazy. What you mean separate? Where is there a better house than this? Where can I wear better clothes than this? Where can I eat better food than this? That was that house Negro. In those days, he was called a house nigger. And that's what we call him today, because we still got some house niggers running around here.
This modern house Negro loves his master. He wants to live near him. He'll pay 3 times as much as the house is worth just to live near his master. And then brag about, I'm the only Negro out here.
I'm the only one on my job. I'm the only one in this school. You're nothing but a house Negro. And if someone come to you right now and say, let's separate, you say the same thing that the house Negro said on the plantation. What you mean separate? From America? This good white man? Where you gonna get a better job than you get here? I mean, this is what you say. I ain't left nothing in Africa. That's what you say. Why, you left your mind in Africa. On that same plantation, there was the field Negro. The field Negro, those were the masses. There was always more Negroes in the field than there was Negroes in the house. The Negro in the field caught hell. He ate leftovers. In the house, they ate high up on the hog. The Negro in the field didn't get nothing but what was left of the insides of the hog. They call them chitlins nowadays. In those days, they call them what they were, guts. That's what you were, a gut eater. And some of you all still gut eaters. The field Negro was beaten from morning till night. He lived in a shack, in a hut. He wore cast-off clothes. And he hated his master. I say he hated his master. He was intelligent. That house Negro loved his master. But that field Negro, remember, they were in the majority. And they hated his master. When the house caught on fire, he didn't try and put it out. That field Negro prayed for a wind, for a breeze. When the master got sick, the field Negro prayed that he died. If someone come to the field Negro and said, let's separate, let's run, he didn't say, where are we going? He said, any place is better than here. You got field Negroes in America today. I'm a field Negro.
For certain dots, like when I see that they put every black man in the movies in a dress at some point in their career, I'll be connecting them down like, why all these brothers gotta wear a dress? This happened to me. I'm doing a movie with Martin.
Yeah.
The movie's going good. So I walk in a trailer. I'm like, man, this must be the wrong trailer because there's a dress in here. They come in. The writer comes in. I think he's the writer. He's like, Dave, listen, we got this hilarious scene where Martin's sneaking out of jail. So he disguises you as a prostitute. And he put this dress on. And, huh? What? A prostitute? No, I'm not doing that. I don't feel comfortable with that. That should have been in the discussion. What? You don't feel comfortable with it? I mean, it's a hilarious bit. All the greats have done it. So, well, if all the greats have done it, it's kind of hacky, right? You're right. So why don't we just not do it? Because I don't feel comfortable wearing a dress. Oh, come on, Dave, listen, we got it all set up. We're supposed to shoot. Every minute you waste costs this much money. You know, the pressure comes in. He said, I'm not wearing no dress, man. I'm funnier than a dress. Just give me something funny to say. I don't need to wear no dress to be funny. What am I, Milton Berle? You know, we're going like this. And then finally he's like, and he leaves. And then, like, the director comes, Dave, it really would be great if you wear the dress. What is wrong? What is this, Brokeback Mountain in here? So, and then, wear the dress. I don't want to wear the dress. I want to wear this dress. You know what I mean? Oh, gosh, this guy's so difficult. They leave. Now the producers come on, David would be so great. I mean, and then I started thinking about it. All the comics that I've seen, man, you know, strong brothers, why are they putting us in these dresses? But the minute it was clear, I was adamant, I'm not wearing a dress. I'm not wearing the dress. All right, fine. Think of something else. Guy comes back 10 minutes later, the whole new scene. Damn, how did you write the scene so fast? You know, it's like, so you gotta take a stand.
Nigga, you gay.
It's just like when you got some coffee that's too black, which means it's too strong. What you do, you integrate it with cream. You make it weak. If you pour too much cream in, you won't even know you ever had coffee. It used to be hot, it becomes cool. It used to be strong, it becomes weak. It used to wake you up, now it'll put you to sleep. They joined it. They didn't integrate it, they infiltrated it. They joined it, became a part of it, took it over. And as they took it over, it lost its militancy. They ceased to be angry. They ceased to be hot. They ceased to be uncompromising. A circus. Nothing but a circus with clowns and all. And I saw it on television with clowns leading, white clowns and black clowns. I know you don't like what I'm saying, but I'm going to tell you anyway. No, it was a sellout. It was a takeover. They controlled it so tight, they told those Negroes what time to hit town, how to come, where to stop, what sign to carry, what song to sing, what speech they could make and what speech they couldn't make, and then told them to get out of town by sundown. And every one of those toms were out of town by sundown. Now, I know you don't like my saying this, but I can back it up. It was a circus, a performance. It beat anything Hollywood could ever do. The performance of the year.
Jay-Z.
And those other three devils should get a Academy Award for the best actors because they acted like they really loved Negroes and fooled a whole lot of Negroes.
It's important to just understand all of the things that the white supremacists do, because anything that you miss, that whatever you miss about the way they go about doing things, that's what's going to eventually trip you up. They already know that. I mean, the system of white supremacy is very, very, very finely tuned, like a smooth-running automobile engine. It's very fine-tuned, and they're always checking to see that that engine is running smoothly. If they hear any rattles or anything, I mean, they go and check on it immediately, because it's not supposed to happen. I mean, they want a smooth operation. And the refinement stage of white supremacy means they do it so smoothly that the average black person, the average non-white person will say, white supremacy, that doesn't exist. Oh, what's that fool talking about? What are these stupid people talking about some white supremacy? I do what I want to do. I go where I want to go. Nobody tell me what to do, you know. So then the white supremacist was to look at that black person and say, that's exactly the way we want all of them to think, that we don't even exist. That everything, you know, that they're running everything, that black people run the world. That's the way we want them to think. That is the ultimate in the refinement stage of white supremacy. See, white supremacy goes through 4 stages. The first stage is establishment. I don't know when it was established. Some people say 600 years ago. Some people say 400 years. Some people say, no, 2,000 years. Then there are other people, depending on what scholar you talk to, say, oh, no, 6,000 years. That's when they really got established, 6,000 years ago. All right? That's a long time. Now, I say I don't know. But I do know that they are in business now, the biggest business on earth. No business is bigger than that, the system of white supremacy.
Okay.
So I'm saying, I don't know when it's established, but it was established. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation. That's number one. And then the second stage is maintenance. Just like anything that you start, you want to maintain it. You want to go around, you know, if you put together an aircraft or something like that, you come around and check. If you put together an air conditioning system or a plumbing system, you come and check it every now and then, see if it's running smoothly. That's what you call maintenance.
Okay.
Yeah, you see it, everything's in place. And then expansion is when you take in more people. The expansion.
That's the third stage?
Supremacy. And there's more people on the planet now than there was, say, 10,000 years ago or 200 years ago. More people on the planet. And most of them are non-white. So you're getting more and more people, you know, as your capital, you might say, in your business. You're taking in more and more slaves because they're being born. More people are being born all the time. And they're being born in your prison. All right, that makes your prison expand. All right, you make more room for them in your prison. Okay, and then the last stage, and this is the stage they want to stay in, refinement. You make your prison look like it's not a prison where the prisoners are concerned. Now you got a smooth operation situation.
Okay.
All right, where you have people walking around saying, nobody tells me what to do. I'm my own man. I'm 21 years old. I'm grown. All right. I ain't no child. I mean, you know, I go and do what I please, when I please, when, you know, whatever I please, and have the non-white females doing the same thing.
Okay.
That's a perfect situation for a prison master.
Okay, let me get this straight. Establishment, maintenance, expansion, and refinement.
Establishment, maintenance, expansion, and refinement.
Okay.
Now, they're trying to stay in the refinement stage. But, you know, a lot of black people are saying, wait a minute. We're in a system of racism. You can't fool me about that. You know, hey, racism does exist.
Okay.
Racism is real.
Racism is real.
Now, you got a whole lot of black people who are saying that now.
Okay.
Not all over the world. Not near as many as should be. Nowhere near as many.
Okay.
But you have a substantial number. Now, that disturbs the white supremacist business. Because in the refinement stage, you're not supposed to be aware that there is such a thing as racism.
Correct.
All right? It's supposed to be so smooth. So they are arguing among themselves now. The white supremacists are.
Okay.
And see, I mean, I told you to keep this thing in the refinement stage. Now, you got others that are saying, no, it's kind of getting out of hand. We got to start using the hammer and the fist. We got to start gunning them down like we did in the old days. We got to be right in their face 24 hours a day.
Okay.
They said, yeah, that'll work for a little while, but all that'll do is stir them up. You don't want to stir them up. You don't want to woke them up. Let these Negroes sleep on. Don't woke them up. Let them sleep on. All right, keep them asleep.
Okay.
Refinement stage.
Refinement.
That way you can lay down and go to sleep, and they'll be waiting on you hand and foot, thinking that they're serving each other, thinking that they're serving themselves. That's what you want, a smooth-running machine.
All right.
There is a system of white supremacy, which is racism, which is designed to do what? Dominate and mistreat people of color. Anybody who is classified as black, brown, red, yellow, tan, beige, has a little bit of color in his or her skin, or somebody said that they did, even if a person looks white, but they say that, well, you got a you know, great grandmother that had some color. All right. Oh, okay. Well, they're in the mistreatment category, right? Yep. Those are the people that you're supposed to mistreat because they got color in their skin. You know, if they got color in their skin, they're supposed to be mistreated. I mean, you know, something is out of order if they're not being mistreated now. You got to mistreat those people that's got color in their skin. Well, why is that? You know, because I said so. Is that the reason? Yeah. That's all it took.
That's all it took. Wow.
And it's a lot of benefits that go with it. See? It's a lot of benefits that go with that. Mistreating people based on color, having a whole category of people, black, brown, red, yellow, tan, beige, just have some color in their skin, and you can do anything you want to with that person, and nobody's supposed to say anything about it? Isn't that a wonderful proposition? Have somebody wait on you hand and foot, do whatever you say do, think the way you want them to think, on account of the color of their skin. Don't you think that that's a wonderful thing to have when you got millions of people like that right there at your beck and call? Ain't that wonderful? Yeah, well, but that, that sounds like that ain't right. Well, we're not talking about right and wrong now. We're talking about what's convenient. Oh, well, it is convenient. Well, then, that's all we need to think about. What's convenient? All right? I mean, that's natural. That's normal. People like to do what's convenient, and racism is convenient for any person classified as white. All right? End of story. Period. And so the average white person takes a look at that and say, well, what if we didn't have racism? Then that means you don't have a category of people that you can mistreat and get away with. Do anything you want to with. Use any kind of way you want to. Underpay them. Don't pay them at all. I mean, you going to give that up? Give it up for what? What are you going to have if you give it up? Well, you got a point there. Yeah, I'll go with racism. So the average white person has every incentive to be a racist.
I see. Okay.
That's the bottom line that I want to, get to.
Okay.
Every white person, when given that kind of option, do you want the option of having people at your beck and call, people kissing your foot anytime you tell them to, and it ain't nothing they can do about it except kiss it? Isn't that a convenience? Well, you put it that way, it is. Now, you want to give it up and just have to everybody equal, which means you're going to have to work harder. You ain't got nobody to push around. When you get mad, you don't have nobody that you can go over across town and kick or shoot and whatnot. You just have to try to work it out. I mean, you don't have that convenience, Well, yeah, I see your point. I see your point. Yes, I see your point. That's a wonderful point. Well, I know it ain't right, but it's convenient, like you say, and we'll worry about the right later. I mean,
Okay.
I mean, if ever.
If ever.
And that's all racism is, folks.
Okay.
That's all it is. It's a super convenience if you're white. Well, probably all of the above, if I understand your question. See, if a fish, the nature of a fish is born in water. So the fish is not aware of water until the fish is out of the water, okay? Because that's the natural habitat of a fish. Now, if you're born in prison, and black people are born in prison, non-white people are born in a prison called, and the name of that prison is the system of white supremacy, you're just not aware that you're in prison. You think this is situation normal. I mean, hey, what's wrong with people? I mean, talking about some kind of racism, what is that? I mean, I go where I want to, do what I want to, what are you talking about? Why? Because if you're born in a situation, if you're born in a prison cell, and you never go out of that prison cell, your whole world is a prison cell. I mean, even a mouse understands that. Or a bird in a cage. A bird born in a caged bird, as Maya Angelou would say. I mean, it's just singing. I mean, hey, I mean, it's happy. Like black people on the plantation. Oh, the happy darky, they called us. All right? Hey, and you say something about slavery. I ain't no slave. What you talking about? Zippity-doo-dah. I'm happy. I got a banjo, got my gal, got my song. What you talking about? See, now that's a firmly indoctrinated person, all right, who is not aware of his situation. And for the most part, here in 2018, the non-white people of this planet are not aware that they were born in a prison called the system of white supremacy, and that they are prisoners of war in that prison, and that no one is seriously telling them this in words that they can understand. And that makes all the difference in the world in how people behave, because we consider this situation normal, which it is. Why is it normal, quote unquote? Because it's always been that way for the people who are on this planet right now. Maybe thousands of years ago it wasn't that way, but that's the way it is in 2018. So it's natural, you might say, if you want to use that word, for non-white people to not understand that they are prisoners of war when they are born in prison and never known anything else other than that. In economics, in education, in entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. They are war prisoners. They are war prisoners, prisoners of that war. Already born that way, in prison, behind those walls. Well, I don't know if the Holy Bible was put together by the white supremacists or not. That's controversial. Some people say yes, some people say no. I say I don't know.
Okay.
But I do know this. Whatever the white supremacists touch, they are not going to fool with it for 5 minutes unless they figure out a way in 5 minutes to put it to work for the system of white supremacy. They'll find something else to touch. So if a white supremacist puts his hand on a Bible, or her hand on a Bible, they are going to say, now, this Bible is already here, but I am going to use it to do the things that I want to do. And I'm going to make everybody else of color fall in line so that this Bible will support whatever it is that I want done. And I will even change the meaning of every passage of it without changing a word. I'll just say, that's not what that means. And the black preacher will say, that is what that means. It's right here in the Bible. But the white supremacists say, boy, what did I say it meant? It meant that yesterday. Why? Because I said that it meant that yesterday. But that's not what it means today, boy. Hey, who is your master here on earth? Your master in your heart and in your head and in your church that I allow you to have is somebody else. But you call your God, and that's okay, I'll let you do that. But boy, when I walk in your church, with or without a gun, you will, and you and your congregation, your choir, and everybody you got here, young and old, will and have obeyed me from day one. So don't get in my face waving a Bible, boy.
Psychology, we call it love for the aggressor, identity with the aggressor, where one loves the one that persecutes them in an unhealthy sort of way. But this is a part of what Freud talked about when he talked about the Oedipus complex. That his theory is that the boy comes to be like his father. I know black. Because the boy hates his father. And it's a very interesting kind of concept there. He wants to get rid of his father. Then how does he come to be like his father, we say? Because if he comes out and actually tells his father how much he hates him, the father might do what? Destroy him. You see? He's dependent upon his father. He needs his father. And that need and dependency, that fear that his father will hurt him or destroy him, the fact that he feels weak relative to his father, then sets him up to say, I can't express my hatred. I can't express my hostility. And yet this hostility is tearing me apart. This hatred is tearing me apart. How can I get rid of it? And he gets rid of it by saying, then, I'll do what my father says do. I'll be like my father. If I think the way my father thinks, if I behave the way my father behaves, if I look at the world the way my father looks at it, if I have the values that my father has, if I be as much like my father as possible, then I will escape my father's punishment and death. If I can show my father that I love him, that I'm the same as he, then my father will not victimize me. And it's a peculiar theory, but it has some interesting aspects about it. To a good extent, the relationship between African peoples and white people is a father-child relationship. We think of ourselves as weak, powerless against the white man. We see him as the source of gifts, the source of blessing. He gives us the jobs, he gives us the protection, he gives us the food, he provides the water, he provides the housing, he provides this, he provides that. You see? And we also think because we're weak, we cannot go directly against him to destroy him, even though he hurts us, even though he degrades us, even though he frustrates us, even though he enslaves us and discriminates against us. We still don't quite get up the drive to say, well, I'm going to destroy this person who degrades me and who is destroying me. Because we feel as if we need him in some kind of way, that we can't live without him. He also tells us that you suffer because you have a different color. You suffer because you have a different kind of shaped nose. You suffer because you have a different hair. You suffer because you come from Africa. You suffer because you don't look like me. And what do we go for then? We say, well, if I want to get out of this suffering, then I should be as much like him as possible. As a matter of fact, if I get so much like him where he can't tell the difference between me and himself, he won't punish me anymore. I will no longer be, what? A victim. So therefore, we are motivated then to come outside of ourselves, to move toward the person that is destroying us and victimizing ourselves, hoping that if we can get them to love us, and if we can show them how much we love them, and if we show them how much alike we can be, we can get them to not see us as colored. You know, look at me, don't look at me as a black person, look at me as a person. You know, to abstract us. In other words, in order for other people to love us, they must not see the blackness of our skins. They must see some kind of invisible abstraction before them. True love is a person who sees you for all of your blackness and your big lips and your big nose, and you kick your head and still does what? Loves you. If they got to remove your hair and they can't see you standing before them as a black person, they don't love you, ladies and gentlemen. For a person to say, I don't see you as black, how can you not see me as black? I'm standing right in front of you. But this is the kind of thing we want these people to do, to abstract who we are. And therefore, if we become a distraction, that means we leave who we are. We have to come outside of ourselves. That's why we want to be educated with them and educated like them and so forth. We want to not identify in any way with Africa, African people, because to identify with Africa and African people is to suffer. So consequently, we even come to hate ourselves and come to hate our people and come to love the people who destroy us, but it's an unhealthy kind of love. We come to resemble those people. We want to take their values and their orientations toward life. And when they accept us, we escape from our self-hatred. And therefore, we look as if we look for their love to take us outside of ourselves as a people. So consequently, even when we don't love them, when we love even within our own group, we still often look for a kind of love that will take us outside of ourselves, which means then we become false and unreal and untrue and dishonest and deceptive, unknowing. And how can you develop then a beautiful household and beautiful children and a beautiful community with a love based on this kind of hatred?
The white supremacists control all of the affairs of people who they classify as non-white on this planet called Earth. Period. In all 9 areas of activity. Absolute control, not partial control, not slipshod control, not control maybe on a Tuesday, but not exactly on a Wednesday. Oh, no. It's absolute. All of the time. Nothing happens that's just going to go anywhere without their approval. That's why you have to replace the entire system. You can't peck away at it. You can't say, well, you know, I'll move a few chairs around in the prison camp. You know, well, yeah, you can move a few chairs around in the prison camp, but you're still in the prison camp. Okay?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, you can have a trustee in the prison camp.
But you're still in the prison camp.
But you're still in the prison camp. And that's what black people are at the highest level. We're trustees. You work in the warden's office like Andy Dufresne in Shawshank Redemption.
But you're still in the prison camp.
But you're still in the prison camp. You're still a prisoner. And every now and then, some black people tend to forget that. And the white supremacists always let them know. Oh, just because you have that title, you got to remember, boy, I gave you that title.
So you can be president.
You don't have a title of your own. You just have a title.
Okay.
You are beholden to me. Every move that you make has to be approved by me. And if you make one that's not approved by me, you will feel the sting from me. And they have proven this all over the world. All of the so-called presidents of African countries, these are not really countries. These are just titles that people have. The white supremacists will determine whether they eat or not. All right? Not to say anything about whether their people will have anything or not. The white supremacists determine whether or not they'll breathe. I mean, through the rest of this day. Pick any, non-white person on the planet and say what their title is and how much of a big army they have and all like that. And the white supremacist says, yeah, I don't care who he or she is. If they are classified as non-white, they can have a sudden heart attack and don't know how it happened. But I know how it happened because I did it. We know how to do things. We know how to eliminate people. I don't care how many guards they got. We control the air that people breathe. All right? Put that in your pipe and smoke it, boy. We control the air that you breathe, and we can cut that air off at any time. You don't believe it? Try us. Because a lot of you have tried thinking that you were the head of something, that you are now out of my jurisdiction. Any black person anywhere on this planet that has a so-called big title knows who their boss is if they tell the truth. And that boss is always somebody classified as white.
Hey, motherfucker! I ain't no black!
Don't kill me, even though I teach you how to do it. Kill your brother and the fellow down the street. And anybody who remotely looks like you. Kill it. Kill it. Harm it. Kick it. Curse it. Write a song about kicking it and killing it and cursing it. And try to get everybody to listen to it. And then go out and do it. And try to get them to do it. And call that our culture. Isn't that wonderful? I wish somebody would copy it. Everybody should be like that. Mass sickness. That's what the system of white supremacy spawns. You have done an excellent job. Even as we speak, it manifests itself all over the world. Get me a 9mm and kill somebody that looks like me. That's what I do. That's the mind of a stone victim. A person who has been completely victimized because their mind has been completely turned upside down, inside out, and then finally just completely oblivious. It's not even a man. Robotized. Niggerized. A thing. Not even remotely resembling a humane person, a human being. kinds of activity, this is what the white supremacists enjoy. They have made the world a cesspool of this nonsense. Some areas of the world, people don't have the sophisticated pistols and rifles, so get a machete. Don't cut bananas off the tree, or cut sugar cane. Get a machete and whack off the arm of a black lady who tried to hide from you because you're a rapist. Teach her a lesson. And then walk around and feel proud of yourself.
Shame. Shame.
Strong black male image.
Shame.
We can stop it by becoming a little bit sane in this insane situation that's been produced and refined by the white supremacists. What's wrong with variety? What's wrong with diversity? Diverting from one thing to another. Well, maybe nothing, but let's examine it. Examine it for what? To see if it is an improvement over what you already had. And if so, justify it by showing, by example, where's the improvement? Which one of these? See, when you start talking about homosexuality or lesbianism, these are not just abstract words. These are talking about you have to do certain things to qualify. So what are these things that you do? And which one of them is an improvement over what has been done? That's just like a person might come around and say, well, hey, you know, I used to kind of be attracted to people, you know. I've had several wives and all like that. Even had a little incest, I mean, every now and then. I mean, you know. And but I finally came to the conclusion that people ain't where it's at all. I'm in the bear. You know. You say, what do you mean you in the bear? I'm into bear. I go out in the woods and I chase me down a bear. The bear ain't chasing me no more. I'm chasing them. I have found that that's a wonderful alternative. I mean, after all, man, I mean, let's face it. Look at these marriages and divorces and whatnot. I don't have no trouble with the bears. I mean, I used to didn't think of anything about bears except just going to the ball game, you know. But I found out that, man, if you really snuggle up to a bear, you'll never want to go back doing nothing else. Now, where'd you get that idea? Well, it just came to me one night. Tired of these women. In fact, people was telling me, well, if you don't like women, get you a man. Well, I'm tired of them, too. So I'm in the bear. See, now, you might laugh, but it's going to come to that, if it ain't already. Because there are some people into that. Yeah, they call it, what do you call it, bestiality?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, see, I mean, that might be a wholesale thing. In about another 10 years, they say, well, hey, well, you know, this gay and lesbian thing about play it out, man, ain't where it's at. You know, man, everybody's trying to preserve the bears now. You know, I'm trying to get me a panda. You know? Now, what is the point that I'm making? It's a lots of things that the mind can do. The mind is extremely inventive and extremely flexible. But the basic question is this type of activity an improvement, and if so, why? Otherwise, why are you coming around asking black people who don't even have a roof over their head that this is what they should be pushing now? They don't even have a decent school or a decent job. But now you want them to join the gay rights movement, and that should be their priority. We should drop everything else and make that a priority. I don't see the justification at all. They have some white people who came around years ago and started calling it the rainbow. You know, kind of, you might excuse the pun, tailgating Jesse Jackson's rainbow push for civil rights. And then they got to saying, well, what is this all about? And when the question was asked, they answered by saying, well, it's another division of civil rights.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all the same thing. Discriminating against gays is the same as discriminating against blacks. And a lot of black people say, wait a minute, it may sound like the same thing, but it ain't the same thing. But they were able to shout all of that down. It is the same thing. Why is it the same thing? Because I said so. White supremacy in action again. Always, because I said so. See, but, you know, but that don't, you know, it sounds like it could be right, but it's something that still don't add up. It ain't the same thing. It is the same thing. Trust me. No different. Discrimination is discrimination, which is another word that people should pay attention to. Everybody discriminates every day. You discriminate when you decide to ride the bicycle to work rather than catch the bus. Now, does that say that you're discriminating against the bus riders? You know, so that word discrimination, I don't even use it because everybody discriminates. It just means choosing. But what is the key? The key is it a choice that's constructive? When you start talking about black people's plight now, see, that's a different thing altogether. Is it constructive or is it non-constructive? Because it's got to be one or the other. Is it an improvement? Now, we already have a mess with the male-female thing, but you would have that anyway under any system that's unjust. But now, are you making a bigger mess, or are you straightening out all the mess that ever was? I have no reason to believe that this is helping to straighten out anything. It's helping to make it worse, particularly when you start doing it right down to the grade school level. Start saying that this is something that this is just what you children need. You're 7 years old, and this is what I need? I don't even know what sex is yet. Now you're telling me about alternatives to sex. Well, let's start out so that your mind will get straight. Now, Jane has 2 mommies, thinking about getting 3. Now, what benefit is this to Jane? Well, she learns diversity at an early age. Diverting from what to what in order to do what? Oh, well, we'll know when we get there. Don't ask so many questions. Oh, no. I got a lot of questions. You know, show me how this is a what? Improvement. Which one of these acts? See? Well, you know, being gay. Don't you understand what being gay used to mean? Being happy. I mean, you know, but that ain't what it means, I don't think, when you say it. So you're talking about acts. Show me by demonstration the very act that you're talking about that's going to be an improvement. And then show me, tell me in words how this is a great improvement. Tell me, you know. First, do the act with me looking at you. And then after you finish the act, you'll say, now that's act 1 of being gay. You ain't gay unless you do this. See? You know, there's several things you can do to qualify for being gay. So you got to have qualifications. Otherwise, what's the difference between you and everybody else? If you don't do something different. So you got to do something. So whatever that difference is, you do it. Then you get before, you know, come to the blackboard with the pointer and whatnot, and you say, now, number 1, this is an improvement over whatever it is you all are doing out there. It's not just an alternative. And I'm telling you this because you should be on board for supporting act number 1, which I just demonstrated to you. This is what you actually ask people to do. See, in other words, stop just talking in circles and whatnot and talking in innuendo. Get the crowd there to come and take their seats respectfully, and then march down the aisle and come up to the podium and have your bed up there or whatever it is you're supposed to have, and do what it is that you say that everybody should be taking an interest in and supporting. And then as you do it, you can turn around and face the crowd every now and then. Just take a little break. Say, now you saw what we just did. Now, this is an improvement over what has been because of, and then enumerate the improvements and ask for questions and answers. Because if I'm in the audience, I'm going to say, now, how is that an improvement? I just saw what you did from start to finish. I sat here and watched it for 15 minutes until you completed it. Didn't say a word. Now I want you to tell me how that's an improvement over what? I think that what I'll hear is silence. But I don't know. See, because they never get that far. They just go around and say, support us. And if you don't support us, oh, you're some kind of demon. You're some kind of anti-something. No, just explain what you're doing. I mean, like the chief. I don't know about that fire water. You know, how is that going to improve me? How is that going to be an improvement over water? Say, well, didn't you get a little buzz when you, yeah, I got the little buzz and all like that, but is it an improvement? Say, well, didn't the mountains look like you know, saw two of them instead of one? Wouldn't you like to have an extra mountain? Well, an extra mountain might help, but that's not really what I was looking at. I thought I was. Well, Chief, that's what whiskey does. It makes you drunk. Well, is being drunk an improvement over being sober? Well, if you work at it, see how they talk? And they do the same thing with sex. Black people talk mostly to each other in order to argue. That's really why they're talking. They don't know this, but that's why they're talking. They're not trying to learn nothing. They're not, you know, they're just trying to, like I said in the book, show-offism. They're trying to show how much they have learned from white people. But they're trying to show it to another black person because it doesn't make sense to show it to a white person. Because that's just who told them. What do you think a black person is doing when they walk around waving their degree? I hear some black professors and whatnot. I mean, stand up talking about, you know, how much they have learned, you know, and how degreed they are and all like that. And then turn right around and start talking about dumb white folks. And that's who gave them their degree. They came a long distance, some of them all the way from Nigeria someplace, trying to learn. Learn from who? Me? No, they passed right by me. That's the one intelligence that they have. How many black people do you see? And I'll go further than that. How many white people do you see following black people all over the world trying to learn how to get to the moon? That's not where you go. Doesn't work. Anybody who will tell the truth know that don't work.
I know some non-white people who would say there are white people who are not smart. I, in fact, just heard of
a whole lot of them, and they're correct. I'm going to join right in before you even go that way. Yes, a whole lot of white people who don't know a whole lot of things. But you know what? Under the system of white supremacy, they know enough. Because they don't have to know. And what is that enough? Something I heard a white woman say one time. A bunch of black people were laughing at her because they was laughing at the way that she dressed. He was talking about how tacky she was at the way that she dressed. This was on a job that I was on. They were getting on the elevator and they were cracking up at the way that she was dressed. Because she was dressed in what most people would say in an outlandish manner. This outlandish, okay? Like she had gone out of her way to attract a whole lot of laughter, okay? But she heard them laughing at her. She turned around and said one thing. Yes, but I'm white. And walked off.
Wow.
In other words, words. Y'all can laugh at me and dressed in all your fine clothes and all like that. But I can do things that you will never do in your entire life. I can go places. I got connections that you will never have. No matter, your children will never have. That's what she was saying. That was back in the 60s. Those black people on that elevator got dead quiet.
Wow.
Because they knew that she was telling the truth. Say, yeah, I can dress any cotton-picking way I want to. But you got no right to laugh at me. Because when you look at my overall circumstances and yours, no contest. That's what she was saying in just that one statement. Now, she didn't say all that. She just made one statement. But I was standing nearby. I knew exactly what it meant. Yeah, but I'm white, you know. I don't have to dress no kind of way. I don't even have to have clothes on. I'm still in a league better than you. I got connections better than you'll ever have. Right?
Wow.
Yeah. So all y'all on that elevator, I mean, just get on it, close the door, and go straight to the ghetto. Well, all white people are told by the white supremacists, those white people who believe in white supremacy, to believe in white supremacy and to practice white supremacy. And it has nothing to do with how much money you have or what kind of shack you live in or what kind of mansion you live in. If you're a white supremacist, you are a member of a world army. And in that army, you have people who have rank, and you have people who are considered to be kind of low in rank, and people in high in rank, but you're still in the same army. And this is the way it has to be looked at if you're going to be realistic about what is the system of white supremacy. What is it really? And how does it work? What is the structure of it? So there's no such thing as a poor white person in the system of white supremacy, if that white person embraces the ideology of white supremacy. That itself makes that white person rich in that white person's mind. Because that person, and some of them have said it, I might be barefoot, but I'm not one of you people. I'm not one of you people at all. I don't care what kind of college you went to. I don't care if you are like that President Obama, that black person that other white people allowed to be where he is, my brothers and sisters. They allowed him to be that. And even though I'm barefoot and I don't fly around in airplanes, I'm still better than he is. Why? Because I'm a white man, that's why. And that's one thing you people can't get through your thick skulls. That's the way we see the world. But you don't see the world the way that we see the world. And so that's why you're in the shape that you're in. Because I have the potential for going where I want to. The only reason I'm up in these hills is because this is where I choose to be. One of the main reasons being I choose to be here, even though I'm barefoot, is to be away from you. Because I don't want you up here with me. And this is one place where you are not likely to come. And I'm down with that. You don't understand our thinking at all, mister. With your black PhD, Harvard education, you don't understand the fundamentals of this world, and that is one fundamental, and that is the system of white supremacy. You are baffled by it, and we like to keep you that way. The white supremacist mindset is not about whether white people suffer. It's whether white people are dominant over non-white people. See, the victims do not understand that at all. We don't understand that type of thinking. But it's a very peculiar way of thinking and a very powerful way of thinking. This question is often asked of me. Well, white people kill each other and whatnot. You better believe they do. But look at it like this. It's like two brothers running a grocery store, both of them white. And there is a black person that works in the grocery store. His name is Sam. Take that for an example. He works back in the back stacking goods for the grocery store. The two brothers get into a knockdown, drag-out fight up in front of the store. In fact, one of the brothers calls on Sam to come and help him beat up the other brother. And then, after it's all over, the two white brothers, both of them white supremacists, they shake hands and they say, okay, did I teach you your lesson or not? And the other one says, well, I guess you did. But maybe if we have a dispute next time, I'll beat you. And then they both turn around and look at Sam and say, all right, Sam, it's all over. Get back to work. Now, if you look at it worldwide in just that simplistic term, you will understand more about white supremacy than you did before. Now, if you so-called men, you black males who want to go from boy to man, if you keep insisting on that, I'll make a deal with you. I will not allow you to ever be a man, because there's only one man in this house, the house being the entire world, and that man is white, okay? But if you black boys want to go from boyhood to manhood, I'm not going to let you. But I'll tell you, I'll make a deal. Tell you what I'm going to do. You can go from boy to woman.
Oh, no.
Now, if you put on a dress and start switching around like your sisters, and I'll have most of you raised up in a house full of nothing but females, so you'll learn how to put on the clothes and the lipstick and all of that. I mean, so sit there and watch your mother and your sister get dressed. You get dressed right alongside of them. I'll have maybe about 4 or 5 generations of you doing that. So you'll be real comfortable in walking behind your mothers and sisters looking just like them, acting just like them, twisting just like them, looking for a boyfriend like them, because that's what you hear them talking about on the phone. My boyfriend, my boyfriend, my boyfriend. All right? And so you'll be looking for some fella, a male, to come and pick you up and take you for a ride in your new high heels that you borrowed from your sister.
Oh, wow.
And you are a male. The white supremacists are very scientific in what they do. So they got a lot of us hooked at an early age. And, you know, we already know about the choirs in the church and all like that, see, and what all that's about. So they finance all of this. They support all of this. A couple of young white guys will move into the neighborhood, you might say, move across the street, right across from a black church. And they, you know, they move in and they are, you know, collegiate types. And they come over to the black church and they say, we would like to help you with your youth program. All right? And they got the money. I mean, and they know how to do things. They have talent. They come in there and they say, well, the way you're running your church, I mean, you know, it's not fostering anything, I mean, that you're going to not have growth here. Well, we can start keeping your books, I mean, and show you how to grow your church. And this lawn that you got out here, I mean, it's real, it's not well kept. I'm a horticulturist. And me and my buddy here, we can come over on weekends and we can make this lawn, I mean, look really outstanding. I mean, when people come through the neighborhood, they will be amazed at how wonderful this place looks, because it's kind of run down, see? And they will volunteer, you know. They say, we're trying to help the community. We moved in here and we want to help. And see, and then they get in charge of the little boys program. So you want to know why your son is acting the way that he is when he comes home. I mean, he's beginning to act peculiarly. That's because these two white supremacists, which is what they are, when they do this type of thing, have infiltrated you right under your nose. And so the white supremacists will run that through the computer. Well, yesterday we had 18 classifications of sexuality that we're going to spread among the black people to improve their conditions. And you say, and okay, what's the projection for next year? Well, we got 18 now. Next year, the projection is 52. 52 different types of sexuality to choose from for you black people. And you say, well, why are you doing this, sir? Well, it's going to improve things for you. You black people want to be improved, don't you? All right. Well, get on board with this. Listen to me, all right? You need to diversify your sexuality. I mean, it's something incorrect. Your sexuality is too limited. You talk about some male-female mess. I mean, well, you need to kind of branch out a little bit. I mean, all you ignorant black people all over the world talking about some male-female. I mean, are you crazy? Male with female? Are you crazy? No. Well, sir, out of all due regard, what should a male do? He's got a phallus, and the female has a vagina. Well, I'll tell you what. The white anus is the new black vagina. How about that, boy? Wow. Sir, what are you saying? Yeah, that's right. And the holy grail of all sexuality, as always, all you dumb, ignorant black people, the holy grail of all sexuality is what? The white female vagina. Black female vaginas are obsolete, boy. Haven't you heard? And you say, no, I haven't heard that, sir. Well, you just heard it now from me. And when I speak, that's God talking, right, boy? Yeah, okay. Let's do a little backslapping here. Let's do a little high five. Wow. You like that? Get on board, all you intellectual black people. We are going to disperse sexuality into thousands of different types of sexuality if we can get you to buy into it, to get you away from what? That black male with that black female. That's what. Because eventually that's what we're going to have to keep doing. We're going to have to make it real uncomfortable for that black female to be around a black male at all and having these little black offspring forever that's making problems for us that we're getting to the place we can't govern. So we got to disperse your sexuality where you will trade in all your sexuality for some fancy bling-bling around your neck, and you got no phallus at all because I cut it out like I did back in the days when I used to hang you black people up on a tree and castrate you. Now I call it not castration, I call it sexual alteration. Don't you want your sex alterated, boy?
Yeah.
Come on in. I can alter your sex, and not only that, there's a bonus that goes with it. If you spread that word around the neighborhood, I'll give you good money. I'll put you in the movies. I'll put you on television.
You said black people need to stay away from each other. Since you brought up black people in your last statement, why did you say that black people need to stay away from each other unless there's going to be some productivity?
Yes, black people should stay away from each other because as victims of racism, the racists have filled our minds full of poison. So whenever we come in contact with each other, the poison immediately begins to spread. Black people walk around full of poison. You can almost see it in our eyes. When we pass each other on the sidewalks, we're loaded with it. It's been put there. We weren't born with it. We didn't have that look in our eyes when we were little people, just little toddlers. We were wide open to the world, just like all people are when you're a toddler. But when you are in an evil system, a system that is designed deliberately to produce evil thoughts, to produce animosity, to produce violence, then that toddler, as he or she grows, begins to pick up the poison that's already here. And then the poison is spread as that person comes in contact.
Put some respect on my name.
Particularly with persons of like persuasion. This is why black people sitting on a bus, you can almost feel the atmosphere of hostility there. That's not a natural thing. That's artificial. And it's all put there by the white supremacists long before the bus was built, long before the people got on the bus. Every black person must realize this. So what do you do about it? Codification is all about what you do. You make sure that anything that you say to someone before you open your mouth is of constructive value. Anything that you do with someone, you sit down and plan it first. and make sure that what you're planning is of constructive value. Otherwise, black people should go the other way when they see each other. They shouldn't even come in contact with each other. They should cross the street almost before they say anything to each other, because once they say anything, the poison starts.
Put some respect on it.
Unless they already have something in mind to say that is of constructive value. Now, we just tried this. This is what you call the process of counter-racist codification. You're working against racism right there. But see, black people just cannot continue to do like they're doing, and that is wait until they make contact and then try to figure out what to say and what to do, and it comes out all messed up right from the jump. As we well know from experience, we should have learned that by now. So we should agree that we avoid each other. Avoid each other like we are carrying SARS.
That's what I was going to say, put in the terms of that we're carrying viruses.
Yes. Yes. There is such a virus as, social viruses that we send, messages that we send with eye contact, with everything. This is why you'll find a black person who will gun down someone with a 9mm in a line in a grocery store about nothing but a look. We're so full of poison, we're loaded with it. So if we back off from each other, avoid each other, and say, now, I'm not going to say anything to this person that I see coming a block away unless it's something constructive. Otherwise, I'm going to avoid eye contact and every other kind of contact.
Well,
see, now, there is a governor on black people where that poison doesn't take place. And that is when that same black people, two black people coming down the street, they will start building up poison for each other a block away. But when they come in contact with white people, the poison is nullified because they know that white people can put a hurting on them. They know where power really is. Unless, of course, they happen to corner some white person off somewhere in an alley or something. But black people don't have that automatic poison rising to the surface because the poison hasn't been put there for them to have that kind of animosity toward white people. Now, that's not to say that it should be there, but the poison shouldn't be there at all. Black people should be like Mr. Rogers when it comes to interacting with each other.
Is this subconscious that we have this poison in us and that are not aware of it? And I know that the answer to the question, but I have to pose the question to you.
We're not only aware of it, we have come to glorify it. Black people wake up in the morning thinking about how we can spread poison among each other.
Consciously
and we call
or
it,
subconsciously?
It's conscious, because now it has become the black lifestyle. We call it the ghetto lifestyle. We call it the black community lifestyle. It is a major disaster of the planet. Major. This is why we slaughter each other all over the planet in huge numbers, just like it's nothing at all. It's nothing like the sound of the 9mm, one of Adolf Hitler's favorite cartridges. Hitler's been long dead, and he is reported to have not cared very much for black people. But one of the bullets that came out of World War II was a 9mm cartridge, and it is being used everywhere among black people and glorified as the principal instrument for spreading poison and making death among black people wherever they happen to be. The sound of the 9mm in the night. Pow, 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 pow. Glorified and enjoyed by many black people wherever they happen to be. It is a total universal disgrace. But we have that. So how do you avoid it? Avoid contact. A bunch of black people getting together, 10 of them, with no constructive agenda, always means something ugly. Always. No constructive agenda. Pre-planned in detail. The Million Man March worked because it was pre-planned.
So what about
it was of constructive value, and
So what about
everyone
the black-
understood that.
What
See,
about
it's
the
not
black
something
church?
that's in the people by nature.
Uh-huh.
It's something that's carefully planted there. So you can plant, you can remove that, if no more than just temporarily, by having a plan. Say now, when everyone does this, when we all come together, the agenda is as follows. Everyone will deport themselves with decorum. There will be no throwing down of trash. And if you happen to throw some down or see some that's been thrown down, pick it up and put it in a receptacle. Now see, this is a pre-plan. Now black people work very well. This is why the churches, for the most part, work. When black people come to church, they have a code.
That's what I was going to ask you about the black
So
church.
black people, well, when black people at least come to church, they at least have an agreement in advance. So we're going to kind of act like for a few hours we have some sense. Unlike the way we acted before we came in here, even though when we leave here we're going to revert to type. But for 2 or 3 hours, we're going to go according to the little code that we have set up about the way you conduct yourself during these services. And so that's just a little respite.
What about religion?
Well, religion is nothing. Here again, you define what is a religion. It's a strong belief backed up by action.
Okay.
Now, the strongest religion on the planet is the religion of white supremacy. Now, a person might say, well, white supremacy is not a religion. Yes, it is. It's a strong belief backed up by action that has a God. Well, what is the God of a white supremacist? The God of a white supremacist is a white supremacist. They are their own gods. This is why they are very determined and very focused and very arrogant and very efficient. When they get ready to do anything, they have total confidence, and they do not take kindly to any images of a God that does not look exactly like them. They consider any other images as being inferior or non-existent.
Okay.
So it's everything that a white supremacist does reinforces white supremacy. They don't come around. They don't even come around black people unless they have that in mind.
Or unless they have to.
Everything.
Unless they have to.
Yes. And the only time they do, the only time they show up anywhere, it has something to do with the muscle of white supremacy. Otherwise, they're not going to show. Even when they come in the guise of doing other things, as people who are called Indians will testify. They'll say that they come, here again with the words, the forked tongue. And they're very efficient. But I don't want to spend all of the day just talking about what they do. A lot of people are familiar with that. And a lot of people may not be. But I also want to emphasize, what do you do? Like we have touched on some things.
Yes.
In every instance, meaning in every situation that you're in, there should be a prescribed way. That's the one thing that black people do not have, is a codified way of handling every situation. Not some, not guesswork, not shuffling and head scratching and wondering what to do or what to say, but precision work. That's the one thing that's missing. That's the one thing that has been missing ever since everybody started trying to deal with racism. That's in the black people that, hey, we let that fella get that seat to show that, you know, we're pretty nice people, basically. But that little demonstration was just that, a demonstration. We don't intend for that to take root. You know, we don't intend for you people to get any ideas that racism is not the basis for what we believe in, because it is. It's the only thing that we believe in, because it's the only workable, most successful government, the government of racism, that has lasted so long and run in an efficient manner. Now, we will, you know, tip our hats to you people every now and then and let you find a little opening here where you can demonstrate to us that we have done a pretty good job of raising you.
The D is silent.
But don't get carried away. Don't think that you're qualified to tell white people what to do, because you're not. Because we taught you, you didn't teach us. Fella, just shut up. What did he keep telling the empty chair? Shut up.
Yes.
You know, don't say anything else. You talk too much anyway. You've had your say. We've let you come. We've let you warm the seat. We've let you drive around, ride around in limousines to get the feel of it, know how it's like. You can go out and tell all your other people, black people, all your little pickaninnies, what life is like in the White House and whatnot. Now, get back to the plantation where you belong. We have always given our Negroes watermelon day out of 1 year on the plantation. We used to do that. Let all the people from the slave shacks come up and throw watermelon rinds all over the tailored lawns of the big house. It would be, we're just going to extend it a little further because one thing, we want to do a whole bunch of damage, mainly put hits on people, mostly black people, on his watch so that history will record. What was that black president known for? Well, he really didn't do anything about money. He didn't hardly have any competence about getting anything done, but he helped us to kill a lot of people. That would be the record. I think that's the aim of the white supremacists for Mr. Obama's record. Oh, yeah, well, now when it came to putting hits on people, in fact, we can always use them to do some droning now, you know. Hey, if you want to be a successful black person, we got some droning we want you to do. We got some people we think ought to be dead. So we don't want to have a record of killing people ourselves all the time. We want black people to be known to be excellent hitmen.
So a non-white person, they say, well, you know, President Obama, he is clearly a non-white person. There is a white person who is working at Wendy's, making minimum wage, struggling. You are not going to tell me that President Obama is inferior to that white person, that President Obama is less than that white person working at Wendy's. What would you say to that?
I would say he's still under the system of white supremacy, and is the white supremacist, according to Mr. Obama himself. He wouldn't have that job.
You're saying if it was not for the white people who practice racism, white supremacy, Mr. President Obama would not be in the White House?
If any black person who forgets that is forgetting a very important fundamental. He couldn't even been running. His name would have not been known. He wouldn't have had a white mother in Kansas who could teach him anything if the white supremacists had not agreed to that. See, I'm talking about white supremacy, thinking about it in depth, not just on the surface. There are a lot of black people just think he just walked in there and say, hey, I'm a president, I'm going to be president, and I'm going to be president because I want to be president, and it don't make no difference what you white people think. He didn't walk in there like that.
What you gonna do? What you gonna do?
He was campaigning. He said, I'm asking you all to help me. And white people came out in Springfield, Illinois, by the thousands, and took a look at him. And said, you know what? I think I'll give this boy a chance. You know, to go through the training that we have given him, you know. Because, you know, and like Mr. Obama himself said, you know, in 4 years you can snatch me out of here anyway. They can snatch him out of there before 4 years. Yeah, they can. He can give up that seat tomorrow if the white people decide, hey, that's right. He'll walk right in there, right in the middle of all them papers that are stacked up on his desk. And he's trying to solve problems and all like that. And they walk right in there and they tell him, hey, just like the mafioso, the organized crime, which is what white supremacy is. They just walk in and say, hey, you know, we made a decision this morning. You're out of here. We got a janitor's job for you at Union Station. And that's where he will be. He came to work at 9, at 10, he's down there putting on his janitor's cap and drawing his equipment out of the storage room for buffing floors. First black president. photograph of it. You know how Mr. Obama looks.
Yes, sir.
He can look the same way, smiling, behind a broom in Union Station in Springfield, Illinois, or whatever the train station is there. You say, how did you go from president to here? White people decided it. Say, well, what do the black people think about that? Well, who cares? They better try to hold on to that janitor's job they got, if they got one. Well, Haiti is on the list of what's supposed to be. Haiti, the people who are called Haitians, predominantly are people who are classified as non-white, but they're not supposed to ever have anything under the system of white supremacy except punishment for being arrogant enough under Toussaint to think that you, with your military skills, can take us over or tell us what to do. So many a historian has said that the reason Haiti is in the shape that it's in now, and sort of like the head wagging people of the world, you might say, everybody kind of looks on them with great pity. It's because the white supremacists made that decision. We're going to make examples of you. Don't you ever think that you can have military force against me, us white supremacists of the world. And we're going to make a perennial example of you up until the point we decide that we're not going to make that example. But you're going to be in poverty. You're going to be pitiful. You're going to be beggars of the first order. You're going to be dislocated trying to find a place to go because you can't stand being where you are, because I'm going to see to it that where you are will never be anything until I decide that you're going to be something.
That's like putting a vice grip on somebody.
Yes, and that's, you know, they're letting the dark people of the entire world know, hey, you want to get in my face, look at Haiti. That's what's going to happen to you.
It's going to happen.
Now get out of my face. You can be comfortable in a prison, which is what the white supremacists have made the world for people of color, a prison. They've made the entire planet a prison that they run. And what happens in a prison? You assign people their bunks, where they eat, where they're going to get their food, where they can be at any given time. You just can't be any place. You got to get, if you have color in your skin, you've got to get permission from those white people, not all white people I'm saying, but those white people who believe in white supremacy, they're the ones who are running things. So they tell a person, black, brown, red, yellow, beige, tan, anybody who has color in his or her skin, they say where you can be on this planet. They say, you can't come here. You can't go there. You better not cross that river. You didn't get my permission. Boy, girl, gal, you didn't get my permission. Get my permission before you cross that river, before you cross that ocean, before you come in my ocean, or before you violate my airspace. You better not borrow a plane or nothing like that and fly in my airspace without my permission. I tell you people of color where you can go. If you want to trade with somebody, even one of your cousins, I mean, on a distant island somewhere, you better get my permission before you take off, because I will stop you on the high seas. You're on my ocean. This is my ocean. I don't care where the ocean is. It's mine. You get my permission. The white supremacists, they manufacture hatred because you have to do that. And you have, if you're going to dominate people and then mistreat them based on that domination and say that these people are eligible. You do admit that the people are really people, but you say they are a breed of people who are eligible to be mistreated. So you have to teach that to your offspring systematically over a period of time. You drum that into their heads over and over again. And you even drum that into the heads of the people that you're going to mistreat. You teach them, look at yourself in the mirror. You are nothing. You are nothing. You are nothing. You are something to be despised. Anything that looks like you, including your mother and your father and your neighbors, if it looks like you and it's moving around on this planet, you should despise it. Why? Because it is worthy of being despised. Why? Because it is dark. That's why. And anything in the form of a person that has dark skin should be despised. Say amen, boy. Say amen, girl, behind what I just told you. Anything that looks like it might be, just might be, in the form of a person, but that person has dark skin. The darker, the more that person or that thing that looks like a person is supposed to be despised. And by it being despised, you let it exist, but you let it exist with the understanding that it's supposed to be mistreated. If you tell it to do something and it doesn't do it, and it begins to run away from you, you shoot it. It's It's a thing. It's even something that you can't even describe as being on the level of a dog. Because after all, I mean, you know, a dog does have some type of proportionate something that you can value. But this thing in the form of a person that you call a black person, you don't know what that is, except it's something you're supposed to if you are classified as white, and even if you're classified as black, you are supposed to despise that thing and not only express it in words every now and then, not so much in the modern days, but you certainly express it in your actions toward it. Put it last on your list of things that are supposed to be given any kind of constructive consideration. And this is the society that we're in, worldwide. And that's another thing. Stop talking about in the Northwestern Hemisphere. This is worldwide, always has been. White supremacy is everywhere. There's no place you can go where it doesn't reign supreme. That's what it means by supreme. That's everywhere, in every area of activity. Economics, they control it. If there's any people of color calling themselves having some kind of economic system that's not subject to the white supremacists, you're fooling yourself. Education, they hoard all the knowledge and have you come to them to get it. They have it set up like that. And they tell you how much of it you can get. And not only that, if you're a person of color, they tell you what you can use it for and what you better not use it for. And they got the muscle to back it up. And then that's economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And if you have color in your skin, they dominate your movements in all of these areas of activity, truth be told. Yes, the white supremacists do this in all 9 areas of activity all of the time.
Okay.
See, in other words, the way to confuse people is to lead them to have questions with no answers. That's what confusion is. Lots of questions with no answers. Why is this happening? Why is that happening? What are those people doing over there? Why are they doing it? And all like that.
I see.
Well, in all the areas of activity, the white supremacists say, keep those dark-skinned people confused. So, and that way, confusion brings on what? Frustration. Oh, you improve your self-esteem by doing things that work. This is what self-esteem comes from. Doing things that work, and work in a comfortable, fashion. In other words, you get comfort from it. And your self-esteem automatically is being built on you doing things and saying things that work for you. That's what self-esteem is. Doesn't work against you. Your self-esteem starts disappearing when you're doing things that are working against you. I mean, it just starts slowly easing away from you. so that you don't have any left. But all so-called self-esteem comes from you know what to do, you know how to solve problems. See, basically that's it, problem solving. And that's where self-esteem comes from.
Mm-hmm.
When you get to the place you have a whole lot of problems, you don't know how to solve them, your self-esteem goes, and then you just start doing any kind of old thing. Just start lashing out at anything because you're frustrated. Confusion brings about frustration. Frustration brings about all kinds of chaos. And the chaos brings about all kinds of conflict if you're around other people. Because you'll just lash out at everybody and then eventually lash out against yourself. I mean, what you're doing when you really just lash out at anybody and everybody with no particular reason for doing so, which is what black people do a lot of. That's why we are very toxic when we're around each other. We're frustrated, we're confused, we're angry, and we're going to take it out on somebody. We don't want to keep just hitting ourselves upside the head all day long, so we hit somebody else upside the head.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Why? Because they look like us.
Mm-hmm.
And so since we're the ones that are confused, we want to lash out at anything that looks like the person that's confused.
Yes, sir.
So the person that looks like me is me.
Mm-hmm.
So since I'm not looking at in a mirror all day long, and I'm angry with myself because I can't figure out what to do with myself, so I will pick out somebody that looks like me. This is the way it works. And I will lash out at that person. Might even kill them.
Wow.
What you looking at me for? Oh, you see my weaknesses. You see I'm confused. You see that I don't know what I'm doing. You think that I'm not a man. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. That's what I'll do with you. That'll take care of that. Meaning, I'm shooting myself. Because when I see them, I see myself. Because they are weak also. And they, black people expose each other's weaknesses and then get mad about it.
And then don't stand.
That is the reason we slaughter each other. That's going to happen. And when it happens again, it's going to happen again. I don't care how many demonstrations you have or how many filling stations you burn down. It's going to continue to happen. What you do, you cannot attract that kind of attention. Mothers have to teach their offspring. We're in a war. We are in a war. If you don't know where you are, you're in a war. You're in a war. Anybody spotted with a gun in a war is subject to die instantly, or with anything that looks like a gun, period. Christmas morning, you got cap guns and whatnot under the Christmas tree. You go outside with one of those guns and whatnot, you're subject to die. Every mother has to understand that. Every father. Otherwise, you're just going to keep crying over these funerals. You have to understand the kind of world you're in. You can't be nonchalant about that. You're not in Oz. You're in a hostile world. You're surrounded by hostility. You always wake up every morning knowing that you're in a war. That's the first order of business. We're not in peacetime. There's no such thing as that. We're in the middle of a war that never has been stopped.
Mm-hmm.
There's no such thing as peace being declared. People declare peace, but I'm talking about in a functional sense.
Yes, sir.
In reality, ever since the beginning of white supremacy, which is what I call the war, that's the only war that really counts.
Mm-hmm.
That's the war, that's the umbrella war of the entire planet. It's never stopped since the day that it was established. And everything that happens in a war is just a battle. And so the different battles are going on in different fronts. Ferguson and this and that, but the battles happen every day.
Right.
Every time there's an encounter of conflict between one white person and a non-white person. Yes. Every encounter is a part of the war.
Yes, sir.
In fact, even the most, what you might call bland or peaceful encounters, it's an encounter because there's a war going on between white and non-white.
Yes, sir.
Worldwide.
Yes, sir.
It's never stopped.
Never.
And people say, well, I work with white people every day. We get along fine and all like that. You're in a war, whether you know it or not, because the white supremacists who are running everything have never said that we are declaring a peace. We are continuing the system of white supremacy. So just because there are individual people who are smiling and laughing and joking and whatnot, and they're going to football games together and waving pennants and all like that, doesn't say that there's not a war going on that is never stopped. So what we need is codification to wrap this war up. It's got to be accelerated, and that's what I try to write with my book, the textbook for victims of white supremacy. We have to accelerate the pace in ridding the world of racism and replacing it with a world of justice. That's why I tell black people, just to make yourself feel good, don't pump yourself up on a lie. Don't go around talking about, that you don't believe, because you say you don't believe in white supremacy, that, that white supremacists don't tell you what to do, and you walking around on this planet as black as can be and saying that the white supremacists don't tell you what to do. I run my own business. They don't run my business. I run my own business. Well, stop and think. Stop and think and ask yourself, are you really telling the truth? No, these people don't tell me what to do. That's why I'm where I am today. Well, where are you today? If you're black and anywhere on this planet, exactly where are you today? Anywhere on this planet, if you're not under the system of white supremacy. That's the question. I started off this program like I start off and continue in all programs because it's a scientific fact. All problems are solved through the process of what? Questions and answers. So when a black person says, no white supremacists tell me what to do, oh, then the question is, does anybody tell you what to do, ever? And if so, who, when, where? And then go through the 9 areas of activity. Does anybody tell you what to do in economics? Does anybody tell you what to do and what you better not do in education? Does anybody tell you what to do and what not to do in entertainment, in labor, in law, in politics, in religion, in sex, in war? And if the answer you give me, and you're black, is that nobody tells me what to do. I'm my own boss. I got my own business and everything. You need to stop and think about what you're actually saying. Well, we are in an insane system, all right? A system of white supremacy is a system of insanity, mass insanity, dominating and mistreating people based on color, or dominating and mistreating people for any reason is a form of insanity. I mean, so the system of white supremacy is the most powerful system of government and the most powerful religion ever invented in the minds of people, and it's designed to mistreat people, so you have mass insanity. Nobody can be made sane in this system.
I know black.
White or non-white. It's impossible to be sane in this system. So you just take for granted we're all insane. So it's just a matter of trying to get rid of what causes the insanity. And so you have to get rid of the system of white supremacy in order to do that.
Yes.
And replace it with a system of justice. So even in our insane condition, the first order of business, the first step toward not being insane is what, according to logic? Is to recognize that you're insane.
No, papi.
See, if you know that you're crazy, you're taking the first step toward not being crazy.
I know black.
All right? So we're all crazy. You have to understand that. Anytime you try to make sense out of what's going on around you and what your entire existence is all about, if you're trying to make sense out of it, you are getting crazier and crazier because there's no sense to make out of it. All right? Not in this system of racism that we're in.
That's right.
You cannot make sense out of it. And once you understand white supremacy, what it is and how it works, that's the beginning of coming out of your insane condition. Otherwise, you'll just keep getting crazier and crazier
And that's
doing crazy things and looking forward to doing even crazier things.
I ain't no black.
It's just one answer to all three questions. In order to maintain the system of white supremacy. These are necessary things. Cause confusion in what? All areas of activity. Because like I said earlier in this program, when people are confused, they have to depend on people who are not confused. So the white supremacists use language to confuse people all the time, every day. You can't buy a car or buy a house without being confused. You can't do anything if you're a person of color anywhere in the world under the system of white supremacy without some kind of confusion being handed to you on a silver platter. See, the platter will be beautiful, the thing that they handed to you in, but they keep that. And whatever was on that platter is loaded with poison, all right? And the poison is designed to do what? Confuse the mind. That's the kind of poison they put out. And they do it mostly by talking. That's why the people who are called in the Northwestern Hemisphere years ago, the people who were designated as called red people, people of color, by the white supremacists, those people said what about the white supremacists? They speak with forked tongue. Say one thing, mean another. If you listen to them, and they keep talking and whatnot, they will talk you out of house and home. They're expert talkers. Like, I sometimes call it Pocahontasism. And if they can't talk to one black person, they'll talk to another. They'll try to find the weakest one. Their record shows this. And this is not anything that Neely Fuller is saying, except I'm repeating what was taught to me. By whom? Directly, indirectly, by people who believed in white supremacy. Many of them. I won't say all, but I'll say the most powerful and smartest ones. They taught me about what? The Indian maiden called Pocahontas. And say, you read this, boy, and you learn it. What we did to people of color, along with what we did to you. Read this. And even though you're reading it, and I'll tell you about it, I told you about your slave history because I got control of all the books. So, you couldn't learn it any other way. I killed off the people who were actually, the first ones. And so I inherited you. You are the illegitimate offspring. That's what the white supremacists tell us every day. You are my illegitimate offspring because I killed off your parents. I killed off the parents of all of the non-white people on the planet until they did what? Until their offspring learned my ways. But I will only teach them enough of my ways to their own detriment. I'll teach them how to fight each other and all of that. I won't teach them anything that makes them more powerful than me or as powerful as I am. Because I don't believe in justice. I believe in dominating and mistreating people. That's why I'm a white supremacist. Domination and mistreatment of people. That's what white supremacy means. It doesn't mean just, I'm trying to, save myself as a white person, as a species and all like that. That's what they'll say. But see, no one was chasing them down, insisting that you give your woman to me. The white supremacists are doing that to other people, chasing other people all over the place and saying, give your women to me. I'll take them. And don't you touch mine, but I will take all of yours and run through every one of them that I can and produce offspring and then make slaves out of them and have them confused because I will always tell them that some of you are my offspring and get you to fight the other ones, the light skin against the dark skin, and come up with all different kind of religions and have you fighting about that when I am the most powerful of all religions. There's no religion more powerful than the religion of white supremacy. Now, a lot of people will say, well, where'd you get that from, Fuller? I had to come up with that one because that's the truth. Compare any religion, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Judaism, Confucianism, Hinduism, with the religion of white supremacy, there's absolutely no comparison. There's never been a religion as powerful as the religion of white supremacy.
White males have always mistreated all females and taught black males and encouraged black males to mistreat black females. All right? So females all over the planet, all of the females all over the planet have been grossly, horrendously mistreated and are being mistreated even as we speak. I mean, that mistreatment is not isolated, whatnot. It's just people just mention it every now and then. But it's 24/7. It goes with the system of government that we have, the world government. It is okay to mistreat females, whether you're white or non-white, except if you're non-white, you better be very careful about mistreating a white female, all right? Now you can get into serious trouble. But for a white male to mistreat a white female, that's considered okay among the white supremacists themselves. I mean, that's almost like a handshake deal.
Wow.
And they have always done that. All right? At the same time, they will glorify them, all right, when it comes to other people. But when in the house themselves, they will kick that black female around, that white female around. White men will do that.
Yes,
People
sir.
who have worked in white people's houses have found that out. Particularly back in the old days when
Yes,
you
sir.
had a lot of maids.
Yes, sir.
And sometimes the maid has to come to the rescue of the lady of the house, you might say.
Wow.
And say, you know, Mr. So-and-so, you shouldn't talk to her like that. I mean, she didn't do nothing. She didn't mean no harm and all like that. I mean, you know, the black maid has to intervene in order to help the white female out.
Yes.
You know, or something. But then, on the other hand, the white female is also considering herself a part of the establishment, like in the slave plantation. The white female was abused by the white male, but if the black servant, the black female, who is the maid in the house, even talked back to the lady of the house. Now, wait a minute, all right, who's in charge here?
Okay.
And say, well, I just, Miss Alice, I stood up for you yesterday when Mr. George was talking to you in an abusive fashion, and now you're talking to me in an abusive fashion. Say, yeah, but you're the maid.
Wow.
You are a Negro. You are a subordinate.
Yes.
You have nothing to do with the royal family's arguments.
Yes.
Don't get it mixed up, Hattie. All right? Don't get it mixed up. You are still a subordinate in our house. I mean, you know, hey, it's one thing, in the system of white supremacy, the white supremacists always let black people know, I'm not only in charge of you.
Yes.
I'm in charge of everything that you claim is yours, including what you say is your woman.
Yeah.
Negro boy. You know? You say you got a wife, you ain't got nothing except what I say you have. You don't have a wife, you don't have children, you don't have anything. Why? Because I got you.
Wow.
All right?
Yeah.
And don't you ever forget it. I can have your wife in bed with me anytime I want to, and your daughters by your wife. And you know it, and I know it, but you turn a blind eye to it because you know you better.
Yeah.
All right? And that's always been. And that's true in 2017 all over the world. And now we'll, since you don't have any idea what to do with yourself, not even your own bodies and whatnot, we'll just draw pictures all over your body and have you flock into that.
We'll have you working hard, looking forward to getting enough money together to come into the tattoo parlor. And we will draw pictures. We'll draw designs. We'll draw whatever we imagine all over your body, like we used to do under the elevated tracks or over on some abandoned warehouse, because that's what you are. You are an abandoned warehouse. So I will draw tattoos on you and have you pay for it, because you don't have any idea of what to do with yourself. You're just looking around for somebody to tell you what is valuable, what to do, what not to do. You're looking around for somebody to tell you this, and we have always done the telling, because you don't have any idea of what to do with yourself. So that's what we do with you people. We always have ideas about what we are going to do. You don't have any ideas about what you are going to do when you get your cap and gown and walk out of an institution that I set up for you to get your learning. You have to look to me, and I will always tell you what to do and will always be to my advantage, because I'm a white supremacist. That's the way that works. White supremacy takes in 9 areas of activity, and anything that a white supremacist does is to strengthen the system of white supremacy. The system of white supremacy is already an institution. That's just another way of saying the system of white supremacy when you say institutionalized racism. Racism is white supremacy. White supremacy is racism. It's no other form of racism. So that's already in place. So I call it in capital letters the system of white supremacy. And that covers all areas of activity that involve non-white people who are the victims of the system of white supremacy. And those areas of activity are economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. That covers just about everything that everybody is engaged in at any minute of any day, anywhere on the planet, both white people and non-white people. I mean, and all of these areas of activity are interrelated. Religion is associated or interrelated with politics. Politics is interrelated with education. Education is interrelated with economics. Economics is interrelated with religion, and so on and so on and so on. So what the white supremacists did, they looked at the non-white people, the people of color on the planet, and say, we are going to dominate all of these people simultaneously, all of the time, in everything that they do and say. And we are going to figure out a way to not only dominate them, but we are going to mistreat them. Oh. We're not just going to be their bosses.
Okay.
We're going to mistreat them. For what? For fun, for glory, and for material gain.
Okay.
That's what white supremacy is. But the white supremacists will say anything. You will say, well, we have a system of white supremacy in place. It's Neely Fuller. He's going around saying that there's a system of white supremacy. And the white supremacists will say, if they think it will work for them, they'll just simply say, Neely Fuller is crazy. There's no such thing as white supremacy. It doesn't exist. It never did exist. He's making it all up. They'll say anything. A white supremacist will say anything that they think that people will believe. They don't care. They use words to do one thing, to strengthen their position that's already in place. Well, in answer to the last question, first, no, different white supremacists are very skilled, very adaptable, the most sophisticated ones. They know the white code. So they say, okay, here comes the black guy who, works down on the dock and whatnot, and he likes hip-hop. So, okay, so I'll learn a little bit about hip-hop, and so that way I can talk to him a little bit about him. He'll be relaxed and whatnot, and then I can talk to him about other things that I want him to do that'll fit me, okay? So they'll do that. See, the white supremacists, they are masters of psychology. I mean, they're the best psychologists in the world. They know how the mind works. They know how to make a black person laugh.
They know how to make them cry. They know how to make them sad. They know how to do all of this. Why? Because they spend full time studying us. All right? We don't spend any time studying them. We spend full time studying us.
Yeah.
That's why we don't really learn anything about the world that we are, the real world, and who runs it that we are in. Because we spend all our time watching each other. One slave at the bottom of the ship watching the other slave at the bottom of the ship. Now, how much are you going to learn from that? Except how to have contempt for people who are enslaved, which is what we do. And that's why we go at each other every chance we get.
Yes, sir.
All right. We're down at the bottom of the ship hitting each other with our chains.
Okay.
We are chained now to the ship, the slave ship. That hasn't changed. So we spend our time doing what? Fighting each other in the bottom of the ship. And every now and then the captain of the ship or the sailors in charge, whatnot, white, they come down and splash water on us or something, you know, turn the hose on us on them if they got one sophisticated that, you know, and break up the fight, you know, so that they can get some sleep. Because that's all it is. They don't care about us. I mean, you know, just break up the fight so we can get some sleep. You're disturbing us. You dark people, you slaves and whatnot. The captain has to get his rest. The captain can't put up with all that noise that you sometimes make. They don't mind you fighting each other as long as you don't kill each other, because we got to use you. Okay? We'll let a few of you die. I mean, you know, that goes with the trade. That's part of the business. But that's basically what it's all about.
We are killing each other in order to maintain this system. We have let ourselves become possessed by a spirit such that when we become aggressive, we aggress against the self instead of those who are the source of our aggressive orientation. We talk a lot as a people about self-hatred. Self-hatred is a personality configuration. It is a form of personality organization. It is an orientation toward the world and towards oneself. Self-hatred, then, is the white man's greatest protection against being destroyed by the black man. To a good extent, self-hatred is the white man's defense mechanism, is the white man's form of self-defense. How can we say that? To a great extent, one function of the personality is to direct energy, to direct aggression, to channel aggression and energy and wishes and impulses in particular directions, to organize feelings, to organize energy, to achieve certain ends. Those things that we hate, often then when we are angry or hostile, we aggress against them, don't we? We attack them often. We destroy them. Then we have a problem, don't we? If we attack the things we hate, if we attack the things toward which we hold hostility, when we are overly frustrated and when we are angry, then what happens if that thing we hate is ourselves? It means then, ladies and gentlemen, that when we become frustrated and angered as a people, when we are overwrought by feelings of hostility, and our self-hating personality seeks to channel that hostility and channel that aggression, it's going to channel the aggression right back on to the self, because that's the thing we hate most. So consequently, black anger then becomes a conduit for black self-destruction, for black self-defeat. The object of our hostile, aggressive feelings becomes ourselves. And you can see then how the white man is protected by that personality structure, right? While he stokes our anger, while he stokes our hostility, while he stokes our frustration, and while we get mad and we want to strike out, when we decide to strike out and aggress, we strike out and aggress against the self. And by doing so, he is left untouched and unscathed. And therefore, our self-hatred becomes his principal means of defending himself and of maintaining himself. One of the things that frightened him most about the Ferguson case was that Ferguson's self-hatred mechanism broke down. Unlike many deaf, dumb, and blind Negroes, he knew who his enemies were. And so when he got angry and hostile, instead of going out to drink himself to death, instead of going out to smoke crack and destroy himself, instead of going out to killing someone who looked like himself, instead of going out to commit suicide and put himself in a place to be destroyed by somebody else, he went directly to the source of his frustration. And this is what frightened those people. They were wondering how many more are there like that, and are they increasing?
When you have an identity, it is difficult for another person to impose a set of values on you. Because having a positive identity and a solid identity is a defense against being penetrated by alien forces. A positive identity functions to locate us in the world, in space and in time and in history. A positive identity gives us a sense of purpose and a sense of direction. A positive identity provides us with self-knowledge and direction. A positive identity provides us with a sense of belongingness. When we say we are African, we are not merely identifying ourselves as individuals. We indicate that we belong to a people, to a culture, to a nation, that we belong to a system of values, a system of perceptions, a system of behavior, folkways, and mores. A system, an identity permits us to cooperate with other people. It permits us to understand what role we must play within a particular group. An identity permits us to know our own interests. An identity permits us to provide ourselves with an evaluative system, permits us to evaluate what is going on in the world. And identity provides us with a defense against possession. I've often said that we cannot be African and be slaves and subordinates of other people at the same time. We cannot be fully identified and at one with our African identity and be subordinate to another people. The European, of course, recognized this immediately. That is why when we talk about our slave history, we often talk about the destruction of African culture. We talk about the rewriting of black history as an attempt, again, of destroying the African culture and an African personality. We recognize that the destruction of that personality, the separating of us from our culture, the separating of us from our history, is a separation of us ultimately from our identity. It means a split and a schism is created in the personality. When a schism and a split is created in the personality, the individual is made exceedingly uncomfortable. It is the first rule of brainwashing. When you wish to brainwash a person, when you wish to transform their personality, you break them from their old personality. You break them from their old moorings. You make them question and doubt their previous culture and their previous learning.
when you get them to begin to doubt themselves, when you get them to reject their culture, when you get them to see their past lives as negative, when you get them to feel ashamed of that past life, when you get them to feel guilty of that past life, and any good brainwasher knows this, and you check out the Moonies and any other brainwashing organization, you will see this process being put forth. Once you get that, the individual then is left in a tremendous state of confusion, in a tremendous state of ambivalence. That state is painful. It motivates the individual then to seek some kind of relief, to seek some way out. Then it becomes the function of the brainwasher to say, if you follow my way, if you accept my definition, if you do it the way I say do it, if you look at it the way I say look at it, if you value it the way I say value it, then you will feel better. See how happy we are. You know, often in these semi or quasi-religious brainwashing places, you see the people running around smiling, and they're all glory, and they're all happy, and they're all loving, and they're all, you know, and here's this confused person cut off from family, cut off from his community, cut off from everything he's known, and is filled with pain, and yet these people seem to be so loving, they seem to be so brotherly, they seem to be so sisterly. Then let me get what they have. And of course these people are here to say, see, if you thought the way we thought, if you look at things the way we look at it, you'll be happy, you'll be one, you'll be accepted. Then often the individual then accepts the values and the orientation of the brainwashing group and then becomes a part of that group. The splitting then of the African personality is a necessary process in inculcating into that personality an alien personality, an alien spirit, creating the personality of servitude. It makes possible then in that African personality, that is the split African personality, makes it possible then for the African to begin to believe the lies, to accept the European distortions, to accept European reality, to accept then the stereotypes the Europeans have projected. And it's very interesting as you ride the subways today, and it becomes an embarrassing event to watch our youngsters use the degrading term they use again and again, so loudly, so unselfconsciously. When I grew up, the idea of using this term in public, the idea of letting white folk hear you using that term, calling one, letting any other group of people hear you referring to yourself by that term was unbelievable. But now this seems to be the coin of the realm. And we hear it all the time, yeah, that nigga this, that nigga that, and you know, it just goes again and again and again. People must have been destroyed in many ways to talk about themselves in public and to be this way so loudly and so clearly. You must then break the African person from his African identity in order for this to happen. And this, of course, is what happens. Nature abhors a vacuum, we say. In other words, where there's a vacuum, there's an attempt for that vacuum to be filled in some way or another. And of course, we see that when we suck sodas with the straw, we create a vacuum, of course, and that vacuum sucks into it whatever we are drinking. When you create a vacuum in the personality by separating the African personality from its African identity, then there is an attempt for that personality to suck into itself something else, to fill its emptiness. When the European then is in control of information, when the European is in control of so-called knowledge, when the European is in control of so-called reality, in control of definition and so forth, it will be these things that are sucked into the African personality. When the European projects lies as truth, there will then be these lies sucked in through the vacuum of the split African personality and accepted as truth. And then this personality, these sucked in lies, these sucked in perceptions, these sucked in distorted views of reality, will take on a life of their own. They will take on a structure and an organization and represent themselves as a personality. At that point, the African personality becomes possessed by a spirit. When we hear, as I said earlier, about the black boys and our children talking that language on the subway,
and speaking the way they speak. In a way, it is not they who speak. It is the spirit in them that speaks, using their mouths, using their bodies. When they then believe the lies that they cannot learn as well or better than any other people, when they are afraid to try, when they are afraid of failure, when they are afraid of success, when they are afraid to challenge the European. You see, we talk about racism, but I don't think we are yet really ready to do something about it. Because doing something about it in the ultimate sense means preventing and neutralizing the perpetrators of racism. Ultimately, it means, ladies and gentlemen, removing the Europeans' ability to perpetrate racism in the world. Not getting the European to love us, not getting the European to so assimilate with us or to accept us, but getting the European in a position where no matter how scandalous he is in terms of us, he can do a doggone thing about it. Because we then have the power in and of ourselves to defend ourselves against his insult and against his slander. Ultimately, then, the removal of racism for the world would mean the ultimate neutralizing of European power. But many of us are not ready yet to take on that task. Many of us are still afraid that we are not up to that task, that we cannot defeat the European, that we cannot neutralize the European. So we have opted for some kind of armistice, some type of suing for peace, some type of getting along, because we figure that is the best that we can do. Then in this sense, then we will be continued to be possessed by an alien spirit. And that alien spirit then will speak to us. When we then fail to believe in ourselves as people, it is because that spirit has taken over us, and it says to us what the European has said: you can't succeed, you can't run the world on your own, you're incapable of having a culture. Without us, you wouldn't have VCRs, you wouldn't have TVs, because see, you're not technical, and you know you love it. You wouldn't have compact disc, and you know you're into your music, you see, and you wouldn't have this, and you wouldn't have that. Europeans are mathematically gifted, and you are not mathematically oriented, and Jews can count money, and you don't know how to keep money. That means that there's a spirit in us, and that spirit whispers to us, and it keeps us from attempting many of the things that we should attempt. This can only occur when we have been separated from our African selves.
So we have some of our people here who think then that slavery was back then and had nothing to do, and had nothing to do with them. Ladies and gentlemen, we've never escaped slavery. We still share the slave consciousness of our great-great-grandparents. We are of the same mind to a great extent that they were. We have not advanced beyond these people. How can I say that? I generally ask a series of questions. You say that slavery has nothing to do with you and slavery was back there. And I ask you the question then, what language do you speak? When did you learn that language? Was that the language African people were speaking when we were taken into slavery in America? In other words, the language we speak at this moment is what? A slave language. The language that our slave ancestors were forced to learn. And we still speak it, and you can still hear the pidgin, the Creole, and the other kinds of stuff in our language right at this moment that they had to go through. That language, with its words defined by history and by an experience, is the language we use today to guide our behavior. It's the language we use today to talk to ourselves. It's the language we use today to learn about ourselves and to learn about the world. Is the language today we use to try to understand ourselves, is there no wonder then that we are still confused? So we have not escaped slavery because we are still using a slave language, and we speak the language of slaves. What kind of food do you eat? You say soul food? Was that the food of African people? Slave food. The food that we find most satisfying, the food that we find that sticks to our ribs, the food that we call down home, a food that we learn to eat in the quarters. And yet we dare say that we have escaped slavery, that we have nothing to do with those people back there, that was back there. When our whole very social life and social relationships, our very definition of ourselves as a people, our very attempt to commune with ourselves is mediated by the food of slaves. Understand what I'm trying to get at? And how can you say that you exist in a different consciousness from another people? What kind of uniforms are we wearing? Huh? What kind of clothes are we wearing? Were these the clothes of African people? Huh? This is what we got to look at. Yes. What is this to say then that we've escaped slavery? What kind of names do we respond to? Yes. Yes. Tamikas and all these other things we got going out here. What kind of names do we identify with? Why is it that African names sound strange to us now as a people, and yet we dare say that we have a different consciousness from our great slave grandparents? How can we say that? We are still of the same consciousness, and we are still in the same position because we are still servants of the white man. And our reason for being in America is to serve white folk and to generate wealth for them. And there has been no change at all in terms of our relationship to these people. The values that we pursue are slave values and the values of servants. The social relations that we create and interact with were built and developed during the periods of slavery. We have not escaped it at all. But it is time for us to change the slave consciousness, this consciousness of servitude that is still too much with us today. And ultimately, we ask the question that's closest to home for a lot of people. When we claim that we've escaped slavery, and the slavery was something back there which had nothing to do with us today. And then I ask you the question, what kind of God do you worship? What's the name of it? Who taught you to praise him? Was this the God you were praying to before you were brought to these shores? Was this the religion you had before you were brought to these shores? Can you name one African God? How can you then, who define yourself, the very essence of yourself and the very essence of your soul, and organize the very nature of your life here on earth, based on a God handed to us by our slave masters, claim that you have no slave consciousness and are not related to slavery? In other words, then, ladies and gentlemen, we are not Africans. We are possessed by spirits and demons. We have let another people's spirit take possession of our bodies and take possession of our minds. When we speak, it is not with our African voice. It is with the voice of that demonic presence that uses our lips to speak its own language. Yes. Yes, and we have to recognize this. We are possessed. And if we are to transform ourselves and to transform the nature of our relationship with those who are our masters, we must engage in an exorcism and clear the devils out of our minds.
And when you're subject to a system where the system is designed to be insulting, and that's the system of racism, and all non-white people are subject to that system, that's my evaluation, then you can expect to be insulted each and every day, either directly or indirectly, even when you don't think you're being insulted, even when the insulting language is not used. You're still being insulted by being subject to an insulting system, because the system of racism is insulting, and that's the only system that we have ever known. And when I say we, I mean the people who are classified as non-white. The white supremacists, and they are, that's the correct title for them, of this planet, are the dominant political and religious force and economic force, if you want to use the term economics. I don't use it within that context, but they are the dominant people on the planet when it comes to non-white people. So non-white people can expect. We shouldn't get jolted when we're insulted or call names, anything like that. You can't, there's no way to pretty it up anyway. And when people do try to pretty up an incorrect system, then they're going more into the realm of illusion. And that is going to engender more frustration, confusion, and ultimately disappointment and anger. Because you can't walk around trying to evade reality. We're in a racist system. We are not in any other system. Racism is not something that people encounter every now and then. We're in a racist system. The entire system is racist. There's no part of the system that is not racist. In every area of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And what does that mean? It means that the people who have chosen to be racist, meaning white supremacists, have become the most powerful political and religious people on the planet when it comes to non-white people. People who are classified as black, brown, red, yellow, tan, beige, etc., etc. And so therefore, that's an insulting system. And so black people have gotten to the place, particularly in the modern times, since what we call the post-chattel slavery, black people expect to be respected. That's why black people kill each other, many of them, many of the younger black people more than anybody, about this thing called dissing, or being disrespected. You're in a disrespectful system, and all the killing that black people do among each other all the time, saying you're disrespecting me, therefore I have to kill you so that you won't disrespect me anymore. And then you run right into the same thing again and again and again. How many bodies can you stack up? Because you are being disrespected in a disrespectful system. If you're classified as black, you're not supposed to be respected. You're on a slave ship. The entire planet is a slave ship. It's not called that, but that's basically what it is. And the destination of that ship is just its own destination, meaning subjugation to the system of racism. There's no black person anywhere on the planet who is not subject to the system of racism. So you wake up in the morning, go through the day, and go to bed that night, and all through the night while you're asleep, you're being disrespected. You're being insulted because you have been put into a prison based on your color. That is one of the biggest insults, not only that a person can receive, but it's really a slap in the face and an attempted insult to the creator of the universe. But the white supremacists don't care about that. They don't mind insulting the creator of the universe. They'll say, I don't like your creation. You made all these black, brown, red, and yellow people and put them among me. I'm supposed to have the planet to myself. And since they're here, though, I will insult them and I will kick them around. Your product, even though I am your product, I don't want to be bothered with these other products that you made. So actually, they are not only at war with the black people of this planet, they're at war with their creator and with ours. Unless I've been misinformed.
The average white person, about the time they're 16 years old, they know all the rules. They picked it up by osmosis, meaning just by being around people and observing and listening and whatnot, being around the dinner table and all like that when political talk is going on. You know, the little white girl, the little white boy who's sitting there, I mean, he's 6 years old, but he hears, you know, his white grandfather sitting up there talking about that blankety-blank Obama and whatnot, and all the rest of those heathen niggas are ruining, you know, the society and all like that, and on and on and on. Now, he's 6 years old. About the time he's 15, he's well schooled, and he hasn't said a word to anybody. He's, you know, by the time he gets ready to go to school, he knows the fundamentals, and by the time he gets to about the 8th or 9th grade, he's got it just about pat. Now, every now and then he'll make some mistakes. You know, he'll choose a white buddy or something like, a black buddy or something like that. I mean, he'll be on the football team and all like that. But for the most part, he knows the rules. He knows where the line is. And he's not supposed to cross it. Because when he does, he'll be crossing his grandfather, who's still sitting on that porch rocking back and forth. You know. Now, boy, you know better than that. It's okay, you be nice and kind to the people. Don't call them names and all like that. But after all, don't forget, you're a white man now. You got to remember that. That means something. I didn't go all the way through the wars and all like that fighting for you to wind up being like them. It's all right for you to be around them and do a little laughing and talking and all like that, but you're a different species altogether, and don't you forget it. How do you think that we got all that we got? By being like them? Look at them. Look at them. Drive through where they live. Look at the way they act. Do you think that's an improvement? You know? And so, you know, they stand there and look, and then they go out and check it out. And they say, no, you know, I'd rather, hey, there's something to being white. You get a lot of things out of being white that you won't get if you're black.
For sure.
Yeah, see, so they see that. I mean, they ain't blind, you know. Are you in a better position being white, or are you in a better position being black? Anywhere in the world. And every white person is, you know, a 30-year-old white person, they don't know that. I mean, you know, even if they are blind, they know that much. I mean, a blind white person. They don't even know what a black person looks like. If somebody's told him he's white, he knows what that means. That's a much better position. You know, because he's listening. He got ears.
For sure.
Yeah.
When you produce poison, you get some of it on it yourself. That, going back to the way this program started today and the way it starts on many occasions, we start with that scene from The Godfather. What did The Godfather say, sitting there at the table with Barzini and the Italians and the rest of the criminal families? He said, this drug business, it will destroy us.
Said, you're talking about keeping it among the black people up there in Harlem, among the coloreds. Let them destroy themselves. They're nothing but animals anyway. That's what you're saying. But you don't understand the nature of drugs. The next thing you know, our own children will be using it. And that's what I don't want to be a part of. That's what Don Corleone was saying to the Barzinas and the Tatalias. And that's what happens in the system of white supremacy. But the system of white supremacy also is set up on a percentage basis, so that the real smart white supremacists have said, oh, yeah, of course, we're going to have some white sacrifices in our army. We're going to have to sacrifice some of our own people. Some of our own children are going to get caught up in nonsense, but we will still have the basic power. We will never let those black people start doing anything constructive on a scale where we can't control them. So we will do it on a percentage basis. For every 10,000 of them who is all messed up, we will probably have maybe a couple of thousand or maybe 500 of our own that are all messed up. But percentage-wise, we'll always hold the power, hold the reins of what goes on in the world. Cost of doing the business of white supremacy is going up simply because most of the dark people, or many of the dark people on the planet now, are becoming smarter and more constructive than they ever have been before. So the more constructive, the smarter, and that's what you mean by smart in a constructive sense rather than a destructive sense. Many people all over the world now, when you look at the dark-skinned people of the world, the non-white people, many of them are beginning to think about doing something, breaking away from their old habits and doing something constructive and thinking constructively, trying to learn how to do things that will have a constructive result. Now, this is always bad for the criminal enterprise called white supremacy. This is always very foreboding to them. But they have got to modify what they do because they are being forced to. So that means more white sacrifices. So you'll see more white people out here doing simple-minded things, but not on such a grand scale that the entire system of white supremacy comes apart.
Interesting.
If it starts heading toward that tipping line, see, they know where that tipping line is. They will open up on black people like you wouldn't believe.
What do you mean by when you say open up?
I mean open up with wholesale violence to put us in our place. Say, look, you're getting too far out of hand now. You're being you are not supposed to be a constructive people. So I am going to drop a bomb on you or whatever it is. But you are not going to be a constructive people. As long as you are destructive, fine. As long as you are doing what you do in Rwanda and what these gangs do over here in this area of the world and all like that, just running around with machetes and whatnot, slaughtering each other, no problem. We love that. That's entertainment for us. As long as you're using drugs and selling drugs to each other and glorifying it and all like that and then killing each other because of the drugs, that's fine. As long as you're riding around on bicycles or drive-by shootings and whatnot and robbing people and whatnot, that's fine. We all endorse that. That's what we want you to do. You're nothing but trash anyway. We want to see you a trashy people. We don't want to see you doing anything constructive unless it's something constructive for us, we white supremacists, because we will make you do what is constructive for us. This is why the pretty buildings and the pretty neighborhoods are all where we are. You know that because we see to it that it's that way. But wherever you are, we want you to just tear it up, break it up, put graffiti all over the place, write graffiti even on yourselves in the form of what they call tattoos. Just walk around looking like zombies. Just wild, broken glass, broken heads, broken bodies, yellow tape all over the place, blinking lights. Wherever you find black people, you see, as soon as it gets dark, blinking lights all over the place. Cartridges, 9mm, lying all over the place with yellow circles around them. How many shots were fired? That's what you call the typical black life. That's black culture. That's black culture at its very best. And that's which means that it's just about all of black culture. Wherever you go in the world, that's what you'll see. Whenever you see black people, this is what you're going to see. Nothing constructive going on at all. That's the way we want it. And when they start showing signs of being constructive, oh, that's bad for our business. That's bad for our business.
So that's not a good business model for white supremacy.
No, that's not a business model for black people at all. No, they are breaking out of their, no, we can't have that. They're doing something constructive. Get down there and start some mess. As fast as you can. And we know how to do that.
That's heavy.
We white supremacists. Something that is very destructive. Whatever is going to cause destruction is evil. That's basically it.
Okay.
Now, everybody is capable of doing something that is destructive. And the white supremacist wants to emphasize destructive activity, evil activity, something that's going to always have a non-constructive result among dark-skinned people. This is their goal. They don't want to see non-white people doing anything that's constructive. They panic when they see that. If you're doing anything that makes sense, they practically lose their minds. No, we can't have them like that. We got to have them in a state of mind where they're doing stupid stuff all the time, destructive stuff all the time. Anytime that you look up and dark-skinned people are coming around, something very ugly is going to happen, because they're going to make ugly things happen because we teach them to do ugly things, and we want to keep them in that frame of mind. If we lose that grasp on being able to control their behavior in a manner that they are non-constructive, except when we want them to be constructive. When we want them to be constructive for our benefit, then we'll allow them to do something constructive. But when they're among each other, see to it, watch them real close, and see to it that they don't do anything constructive. Because when they do something constructive, it means we're out of business. And we don't intend to be out of business. And what is our business? Mistreating people based on color. That's our business. That's our reason for being. That's our only reason for wanting to even breathe or be on the planet. What is the purpose of white supremacy? Mistreating people based on color for the fun, glory, and material benefit of people who are classified as white. That's the purpose of white supremacy in the modern day. Initially, it may have been another purpose, like genetic survival. But now they have been on such a roll for so long, it's for fun, glory, and material gain for the benefit of people classified as white, and for the complete confusion, destruction, and self-destruction among people classified as non-white. That's how they think the entire planet should be run forever.
We getting that money, nigga. Downtown in the building.
I'm a nigga with money. I'm a nigga with money. I'm a nigga with money, and I don't love that bitch. I tell a bitch, 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 make me rich. I'm a nigga with money, and I don't love that bitch. Yeah.
Don't kill me, even though I teach you how to do it. Kill your brother and the fellow down the street. And anybody who remotely looks like you. Kill it. Kill it. Harm it. Kick it. Curse it. Write a song about kicking it and killing it and cursing it. And try to get everybody to listen to it. And then go out and do it. And try to get them to do it. And call that our culture. And then it becomes officially codified. Why? Because it's the only logical way to go about doing it. That's why. You don't have no other options. If you got options, you put the options in there. It's not an option. Why? Based on logic. Based on the logic of what? You can't tell who's a racist and who isn't. You can't really testify under oath that a person is not a racist. A person may do that, but that's a gamble. Because non-white people have been fooled too many times by racists who came bearing gifts and declaring that they are not racist. I don't have a racist bone in my body. Oh, yeah, that's what you're saying. Well, what reason do I have to believe you? Because I said so, and I got plenty of other people. Plenty of other people like whom? Well, there's a lot of black people who say that I'm not racist. Well, suppose you have fooled them. Oh, come on. I mean, you got to believe something. Yeah, I believe you could be a racist. That's what I believe. Because racism still exists. But nobody can ever find one. White people and black people say racism still exists. It's still a major problem. Everybody agrees on that. But you say, well, who are these racists? Where do they live? And all like that. Oh, they're out there somewhere. Well, does anybody have an idea who they are by name? Everybody goes silent. Can you find a few? Yeah, I think it's one or two up there in Utah somewhere, you know. There are 9 areas of activity. The 7th area is religion. And economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. The white supremacists, when they got the idea that they were going to establish something called white supremacy, they said we have to dominate these people in all areas of activity, including their religion, particularly their religion, because religion is what? A strong belief backed up by action. That's all any religion is. And the white supremacists said we're going to make white supremacy the strongest religion that has ever existed. They have succeeded in that. They are not in the process of doing that. Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, Confucianism, Judaism, all of these other religions don't come anywhere close to being as strong as the religion of white supremacy. A strong belief backed up by action. So people are in complete disarray. Confusion, which is what the white supremacists do. They confuse people. Well, we got them confused. We're working on getting them all confused sexually. But we have long ago got them confused when it came to the 7th area of activity, religion. All of these dark-skinned people around here killing each other, hitting each other over the head with the Bible, having endless barbershop arguments about what Ezekiel meant, or what Solomon did or didn't do, or what Ruth said or didn't say. We got them confused. That's what we do. We take any holy book and we read it, and we thoroughly add to it and subtract from it. And then we distribute pamphlets, or samples of it. That adds to the confusion. With our names on it. And we establish different type of churches and whatnot. Different church on every corner with a different name. Supposed to be the same religion, but we got a different church with a different name. Adding to the confusion. Go over here to the Protestant church. Oh, no, they don't know what they're talking about. Then go over here to the Catholic church. And, oh, no, they don't know what they're talking about. Well, what about Jehovah's Witnesses? Okay, well, we'll sample some of that. And they don't know what they're talking about. And then the white supremacists said back, well, when it comes to all you dark-skinned people, you got one religion. And that's the religion that I say that you have. But I might say, depending on how I feel, that you will have all of them at once or none of the above. but you will bow down to one religion, and that's the religion of white supremacy. I don't care what you think in your heads, and you black people can argue all you want to in the barbershops over there on the colored side of town, or in your millions of churches. You can scream and yell and stomp and holler, but when the white supremacists walk into your church and say, all of you, get on your knees to me, because I'm the one who feeds you, clothes you, shelters you, and even allows you to have a church on this corner rather than a parking lot. So you will do what I say, or you will feel my wrath. I'm your God, and don't you ever forget it.